Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 7 of the SJP Files. I'm your host, SJP, and this week's second episode, this episode was supposed to go up on Friday, but a couple of things happened the last couple of days that kept me from recording, so sorry about that. I will endeavor to keep a more permanent schedule. So, as of right now, episodes will either be going up Tuesday Tuesday or Wednesday or Friday and Saturday. That's what I'm looking at. I'm also thinking about doing shorter episodes throughout the weekday, Monday through Friday, maybe 30-minute episodes. I haven't quite decided yet to just do a quick recap of the stories of that particular day or the day before. I haven't 100% decided yet, but I'm leaning towards those short, like 30, 35-minute episode days. We'll see how it goes on. I think I'm going to try it this week because I'm on vacation this week. So Monday through Friday, I'm going to see if I can do short, like 30 to 35, maybe even 45-minute episodes every single day. We'll see how it works out for this one week. And if I like it, we'll go that way. And if I don't, then we'll just stick to the hour and a half, 2 episodes a week thing that I'm doing right now. But on today's episode, we're going to be going through the last couple of days of the NBA season. Episode 6 went up on Wednesday. So between Thursday and today, we're going to go through all the stories that happened in the NBA during the last couple of days. I'm also going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to go through the NFL schedule for today. Today is NFL Sunday. So, like I said, this episode was supposed to go up before NFL Sunday, but apparently, shit happens. So I'm sorry, guys. But we're gonna start in the NBA. We're gonna start with some of the top stories. Then I'm gonna go through the standings, and then we're gonna review a couple games that happened, the games that interest me that happened over the last couple days. Now let's see some of the top stories of the NBA. Let's see the NBA ratings. Ratings for the opening week were up significantly from 2019, which is great. Let's see. NBA viewers watch 81.5 million hours of live games on ABC, ESPN, and TNT in the opening week of the season, up 95% from last week. That's crazy. That's a crazy, crazy number. I mean, I think the reason for that is, let's see, the NFL is winding down, college football is winding down. There's no baseball, there's no hockey. It's kind of just the NBA right now, and people are still quarantined in a lot of places. I'm in Florida, and as you know, Florida, Georgia, we're open. We don't really give a shit, which I don't think is the greatest, the greatest policy to have. But what you gonna do? Not much you can do. But I think it's great for the NBA to finally see them, get the ratings up after the last couple years. I know the ratings have been down, especially for the finals, but there's not much more you can do. This is very much what I don't know. I didn't expect it to go up by this much, but I did kind of expect it to go up. So that's great for the league. Next, we've got Zach Collins, who's out indefinitely with an ankle injury. Let's see. He had surgery to repair a left medial malleolus stress fracture. I don't know how to say that word, but let's see. Ooh. So he's gonna be out. I would guess the majority of the year. Best time for him to be back, if that guess, I'd say probably sometime during March, maybe. Out for a couple months. He'll probably be back this season, but like I said, if everything goes well with the surgery, I'd say a couple months. And since the NBA has been testing for COVID-19, the vid, no player has tested positive since December 24th. not a single positive test, which means that most players are doing what they're supposed to do, or just some guys are just getting lucky. Like James Harden. I feel like James Harden just getting lucky. And there have been a couple players who have been high risk, like John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, like a couple guys on the Rockets team. But like I said, for no one's tested positive since the 24th of December. So that's great for the league. They built up a lot of goodwill with the bubble, so it's good to see them kind of keeping that going. Um, I would very much like to see this continue, because I don't want to see guys out for 2-3 weeks, or like for about 2 or 3 weeks, because they got COVID. Because man, if this blows up in the wrong way, you get a lot of teams that could miss a lot of games. And for players, the problem is that most for a lot, especially a lot of the playoff teams, especially in the Western Conference, any significantly missed amount of time will devastate your chances to make the playoffs. If, like, say, James Harden, or I'm trying to think of a team that's really in the playoff hunt right now. Let's go to Philly. Let's say if Joel Embiid catches it and misses 2 weeks, that could seriously damage their place in the top of the Eastern Conference right now. Same thing with like Brooklyn, same thing with the Pacers, same thing with the Celtics. Any of these guys miss a significant amount of time, and you're gonna get bad, bad, bad stretches of games for these players. Now, DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall made their regular season debut with the Rockets this week on Thursday against Sacramento. The Rockets did win that game, and Wall and Harden combined for about 55 points. DeMarcus Cousins had about 8 points off the bench, but I'm going to go more into that depth. I'm going to go more into that game in depth when we get to the in-game reviews. Longtime Pacers executive Donnie Walsh retired. Okay, that's not that big of it. 79 years old, 30-year relationship with the team. That's a long time, and he had some winning years in 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 Indiana. He was part of the team that drafted Reggie Miller and got the team to the Eastern Conference Finals. They even won the Eastern Conference. They won the Eastern Conference Finals in 2000, but lost to the Lakers in 6 games. So this is it. I hope he has a great retirement. I hope he lives life. Spend some time with his grandkids. Okay, and another big story: LeBron James extends his record 10-point games to 1,000 points, which is amazing. LeBron James once again proving that he is the most storied players, one of the most accomplished players the game has literally ever seen. He is, to me, unquestionably one of the 3 greatest players of all time. In my opinion, he is the greatest player of all time. But a lot of people say Michael Jordan and The Last Dance didn't exactly help LeBron James's case to be the GOAT. But to me, that's what he is. He is the greatest player of all time, playing in the most skilled era to date in history. And to be able to score 10 points in 1,000 straight games, that means that more often than not, you didn't really have bad games. You were just consistent for the entirety of your career. Now, the second guy on that list, now LeBron James was the all-time leader with most consecutive 10-point games for a long time. The second guy on the list is, of course, Michael Jordan at 866 games, and then you've got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at 787 games. But it's just a thing. It's a thing. He's had the record, I believe, since March of 2018. So great for him. Like I said, the next two guys on the list are Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Then you've got Karl Malone at 575, and then you've got Kevin Durant at 582. These are played through regular season games. So, congratulations to LeBron James. And his career. And I see another thing. Okay, let's see. The last time LeBron James failed to score 10 points in a game was on January 5th, 2007. He had 8 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds as the Cavs beat the Bucks. He's had, 8 single-digit scoring games in his entire career, with 6 of them coming during his rookie season. I mean, that's incredible. That's just a model of consistency I don't think anyone's ever had. And the funny thing is that LeBron James isn't, when you talk about the most, I want to say, when you talk about the best scorers in NBA history, no one will say LeBron James's name, despite the fact that for his career, I believe LeBron James averages about 27 points. And he's, third or fourth on the NBA's all-time scoring list, and is most likely going to end up not only the NBA's all-time leading scorer, but the only guy in league history to score 40,000 points. Now, LeBron is never going to be the pure scorer that Jordan was. Jordan had 10 scoring titles. LeBron's only got 1. LeBron averaged Jordan's highest average was 30 points. Jordan's average for his entire career was 30 points, while LeBron's is 27. That's 3 points behind. That's 4th all time. He's 4th all time. I mean, the guy's in his 18th year, and like I said, he's going to end up the NBA's all-time scoring leader. He's 4th in points per game for his entire career, and no one considers this guy one of the greatest scorers ever. It's so infuriating. It really is. He is the model of consistency, has always been the model of consistency. And one of the detriments to his career is the fact that, unlike most of the all-time greats, he never got to play for a all-time Hall of Fame coach. No, Shaq, Kobe, Jordan, they all have Phil. I'm trying to remember who the hell Larry Bird had. I don't care at the present moment. But you got Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had Pat Riley for a bulk of their championships. You had Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal, who both had Pat Riley. I mean, Tim Duncan had Greg Popovich for all of his championships. You had Larry Brown in Detroit. But you talk about what his career would have been like if he had been drafted, because I know Cleveland got the #1 overall draft pick that year. But 2nd was Detroit, 3rd was Denver, 4th was Toronto, and 5th was Miami. Imagine if that lottery turns out a different way, and let's just say Detroit winds up with the #1 overall pick, and they pick LeBron James. Imagine how different LeBron James's career is if he is coached by Larry Brown in the first few seasons of his career. He definitely wins the championship a hell of a lot earlier. I think learning, being next to Chauncey Billups and Rich Hamilton and Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace, being on that team, being coached by Larry Brown, I think he learns how to win on the NBA level a hell of a lot earlier than it took him in his regular. I think he won his first championship in year 8 or year 9. He won his first ring. I think that changes a hell of a lot sooner. Same thing with Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony goes to Detroit instead of Denver. Carmelo's got at least 2 rings right now. Without question, he's got at least 2 rings, maybe even 3. Imagine LeBron getting drafted by getting drafted by the Denver Nuggets, getting drafted by the Denver Nuggets, playing for, I believe it was either George Karl or Don Nelson. I think it was George Karl around that time. So imagine LeBron James being on that Denver Nuggets team, being coached by George Karl, another great coach. Not a great, Ron instead of Melo, he's got a championship. And then you go with the Miami Heat, man. If he winds up in Miami at the beginning of his career, a team GM'd by Pat Riley, coached by Stan Van Gundy, who's a very good coach. I know he doesn't really get the credit I think he deserves, but he's a good coach. So imagine, maybe even imagine Shaq going there when Shaq is still in his prime. Instead of one championship, I think they have at least two, maybe three. LeBron, once again, learns to win at an earlier age. He learns to win around the same time Dwayne Wade learned to win. And the ramifications for Dwayne Wade's career is different as well. Same thing with like Chris Bosh and Carmelo Anthony. That is still one of the greatest draft classes ever. Those three guys are still three of the greatest players ever. But, I mean, their trajectory just changes so dramatically if the lottery shakes out a little different. Next, Becky Hammon becomes the first woman to coach an NBA team. She stepped up to the bat when Greg Popovich got ejected during what game? It was, I believe it was the Lakers. Yeah. He got ejected late in the second quarter. So it's a substantial moment. I think Becky Hammon is probably going to be the first female head coach in the NBA. I think definitely after 14 years. She's been with the Spurs, with the Stars for like 14 years. A lot of time invested. Being coached by one of the best coaches in NBA history, maybe even the best coach in NBA history, in Greg Popovich. I mean, it's my opinion, that she's going to be the first female to be an NBA head coach, maybe even as early as next year. She's, nominated for the Hall of Fame this year, class of 2021. First full-time female assistant coach in NBA history. I mean, I think this could be great. She's definitely at the top of the list. She's a player. She has the knowledge, and I think that's what players respect. I don't think the players in the NBA really care whether or not she's a woman. I think they care that she knows what she's talking about, and I think that's a lot for most athletes. Especially since she played the game at the highest level that you could play. She played professionally, not just in the WNBA, but all over the world. So they're going to respect her knowledge. And, being a coach and being, taught by Greg Popovich, what's there to know? She's a coach. She's a coach. She knows the game, and the players will respect her because she knows the game. All right, now a little story. Chris Dunn, he went through arthroscopic knee surgery to remove some loose cartilage in his ankle. He'll be out for about 2 weeks. TJ Warren is about to go under. Has already probably had the surgery as of today, but on the 31st, he's going to undergo left foot surgery for a left foot stress fracture. So he's probably out for the next couple games. He's probably out for the next couple months, maybe even the whole year. Like I said, let's see, John Wall and James Harden shine in their debuts. But once again, I'm going to talk about that when I get to the NBA game reviews. And let's see, Steph Curry. Man, I don't know, man. Steph is having it's not just Steph's having a bad year. This team is having a bad year. They are terrible. They're terrible. And with the focus that Steph Curry is getting, he's only shooting 41% from the field and 31% from three, which aren't Steph Curry numbers. because he usually shoots about 48% from the field and 44% from three. But this year, all the attention's on him. There is no Draymond Green. Draymond Green hasn't played yet. There is no Klay Thompson. He's hurt to take away some of that pressure from Steph. Kevin Durant's not here either. So it's going to be a rough year for Steph. It really is, and it sucks for Steph. And this could really hurt his legacy. And that sucks. But, sorry, Steph, man. It kind of just the way it goes, man. And I feel really, really bad for him. All right, that's it for the stories. We're gonna take a quick look at the NBA standings. In the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers are 5-1. They're at the top of the East. Then you've got the Orlando Magic at 4-2, the Indiana Pacers at 4-2, the Cleveland Cavaliers at 4-2, the Atlanta Hawks at 4-2, the Brooklyn Nets at 3-3, the New York Knicks at 3-3, and the Boston Celtics at 3-3. Milwaukee Bucks at 9 at 3-3, the Miami Heat at 2-3, the Chicago Bulls at 2-4, the Charlotte Hornets at 2-4, the Toronto Raptors at 1-4, the Detroit Pistons at 1-4, and the Washington Wizards at 1-4. That's your Eastern Conference, and there are a couple teams here I am very surprised at. Surprised that the Orlando Magic are this high. They've played a couple cupcake games against the Washington Wizards, so we'll see how that works out. The Indiana Pacers, with the injury to T.J. Warren, I expect them to fall. The Cleveland Cavaliers look great. I expect them to try and trade Kevin Love this year. He's not exactly playing well, and I think he's hurt right now. So I did expect the Atlanta Hawks to be better this year. The Brooklyn Nets, they started out hot, but with KD and Kyrie missing a couple games. The New York Knicks, Julius Randle apparently is balling out. I haven't really been paying attention to New York because they suck on a regular basis. Same thing with Boston. But I think a couple of these teams just need to kind of get it going right now. I expect the Bucks and the Heat to, Bucks and the Heat to grow the hell up. Not grow up. Kind of get up. I expect them to smooth out as the year goes on. The Toronto Raptors, I am a bit surprised out that they started 1-4. That's rough for them. I definitely expected them to be in the top 8 of the Eastern Conference, and it doesn't look like that right now. All right, in the Western Conference, we've got Phoenix at 5-1, led by Chris Paul. 4-2, the Pelicans. 4-2, Clippers. 4-2, Lakers. 3-2, Jazz. 3-2, Blazers. 2-2, Rockets. 3-3, Sacramento Kings. Now, with the exception of the 1-4 Denver Nuggets and the 2-3 Dallas Mavericks, the Western Conference is shaking out very much like I hoped it would be. The Memphis Grizzlies, with Ja Morant missing 3 to 5 weeks, they're pretty much out of the playoff picture for the time being, unless they can either rack up some wins against some bad teams. This is going to be a bad year for the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs this year. This 3 to 5 week span could definitely, put them in such a hole that when Ja Morant actually does get back, they're nowhere near the NFL. They're nowhere near the NBA, playoff picture. They're just completely out of it. And when Ja gets back, maybe they can go on like a 10-game run, 10, 15-game run where you go 11 for 12. When you win 12 out of 15 games. Hopefully that happens, and if that happens, maybe they can get back to the playoff picture. But as of right now, Memphis, it's going to be rough. Dallas, same thing. When Kristaps gets back, I think they'll kick it into gear. Denver is a little worrying right now. They're my pick to meet the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I don't know what's up with them right now, but I think they'll get it together. I'm not jumping off the Nuggets bandwagon. I'm not changing my pick, not yet anyway. We're going to wait till the All-Star break to reassess who's going where. But that's it for the Western Conference and Eastern Conference standings. A little quick little quick a surveying of the landscape of the NBA right now. Now we're gonna take a little break, and then we'll be right back for after a word from our sponsors. All right. Welcome back to the SJP files. Now, last segment we talked about the stories of the NBA and dove a little bit into the standings. Now we're gonna dive more into individual games. First game I want to talk about the Chicago Bulls versus the Washington Wizards. Now, the Bulls and the Wizards are two kind of interesting teams. Interesting as in the fact that they both kind of up right now. I mean, the Bulls are 2-4. The Wizards are 1-5. Now, don't care much about the Chicago Bulls, but the Washington Wizards are a team that I do care about. They're a team I have been talking about. They're a team I believe with Russell Westbrook will be in the NBA playoffs. But now, after their 1-5 record, I mean, their offense looks terrible. It's slow, it's stagnant, there's not a lot of movement to it, there's not a lot of nuance to it. I mean, Russell Westbrook is still doing his, triple-double thing. He had 22 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists in this game. And Bradley Beal had 28 points. But still, their offense is terrible. There's no, once again, it's just no nuance to it. And Danny Avdija looks okay as a rookie. He had 6 points this game in 25 minutes. Rui Hachimura had 17 points, but I believe Rui is going to be out for a while. So once again, this team just doesn't look good right now. I'm not seeing anything that makes me believe that they're going to be in the playoff picture, even in the Eastern Conference. They're going to have to seriously go on a run because right now they look terrible. The offense is bad, and their defense isn't much better. I mean, they gave up 133 points. I know they only lost by 3, but still gave up 133 points. This is not a good defense. It's not a good offense. The Chicago Bulls are still a very young team. Otto Porter Jr. had 28 points. When the last time Otto Porter Jr. had 28 points? Zach LaVine had 22. Kobe White has 16. But I'm not overly surprised with the Washington. I'm not overly, enamored with the Washington Wizards right now. I mean, before the season, I had them in the top 10. I had them go into the playoffs this year, especially after what Russell Westbrook did in Oklahoma City when he was by himself after Kevin Durant left. But right now, they're a bad team. Right now, they look like the worst team in the Eastern Conference. They lost 2 games to the Orlando Magic earlier this year. I'm just not seeing what I hoped I would see. And I really, really hope they turn it around, or they're going to be in the not just in the lottery, but in like the top 5. That's just it's not a good year for them. Not at all. All right, next game we're going to talk about is the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Orlando Magic. Now, this is another game of here's this game. This is another game of Markelle Fultz going kind of back to playing his old team, the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers look really good right now. They very much look like the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. They look so good. They look freakishly good right now. I mean, in this game, Tobias Harris had 20 points. Joel Embiid had 21 points. Seth Curry had 21 points. Ben Simmons only had 9 points, but he had 8 assists. Great defense as usual. I mean, Shea Milton gave you some points off the bench. Tyrese Maxey, Matthias Thybulle, Dwight Howard gave you some great minutes off the bench. They look like a very, very good team. They look like a team that could definitely challenge to go to the NBA Finals in the Eastern Conference. Right now, at this exact moment, they look like the best team in the Eastern Conference. Now, I'm not That's not a hill I'm prepared to die on, but they do look very, very good, and I want to see them do better. I want to see more from Ben Simmons. I know Ben Simmons had a 3-point, dropped the 3-pointer against, who was it? Against the Orlando Magic, I believe it was. So, shout out to Ben. Congratulations. But I'm going to see, because the shot looks natural. I believe it might have even been in this game. Was it? Yeah, it was in this game. Dropped, just pulled up for, not he didn't pull up for a 3, hit a 3 in the corner. Now, if he can do that on a consistent basis, this is a team that could be a real problem. Not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA Finals. If you've got Ben Simmons hitting, wide open threes in the corner, that's the shortest 3-point shot. If you could just give me a consistent, 35% from there, this is a dangerous team. Now, I know people say, well, Ben Simmons doesn't need to shoot for this team to win a championship. Yes, he does. Because I've heard that. Why are people so... My issue with Ben is he needs to shoot. In today's NBA, I do not believe, until it happens, I do not believe that you can win a championship with your primary ball handler not shooting. You just can't do it. And unless the Philadelphia 76ers prove me otherwise, that is my stance on the subject. And I want him to be better because he is so talented. But him and Joel Embiid, their games don't mesh in a way that makes me comfortable picking them to win a championship. They're both so talented. Joel Embiid, he looks great this year, like he looks at the beginning of almost every year. He had 21 points, 9 rebounds, 7 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. He hit 6 of his 8 free throws. He looks great, as he does almost every year. And the Doc Rivers effect on Tobias Harris also looks good. He looks great the last couple of games with him, playing well, him dunking on, what was it? I believe it was Bismack Biyombo and, what's the name? Terry Rozier in the game against Charlotte, which I'll get to later. But he looks great. He looks great right now. Danny Green can be hit and miss sometimes, but he's still a very good defender. This is a good defensive team, but I need to see Ben Simmons adjust his game a bit because in the playoffs, the court shrinks to a point where your inability to shoot, in the regular season, it's kind of a non-factor because your team is so talented. But in the playoffs, when a team can stop and focus on one team for 2 weeks, your inability to shoot closes the court to a point where it makes Joel Embiid's life harder. It makes Tobias Harris's life harder. It might make, your other guys, Seth Curry, Danny Green, the guys who can hit open 3-pointers might make their lives easier, but it makes your 2 other primary scorers, your 2 other primary ball handlers, they make their life harder and to the point where it stifles your offense. Now, maybe Doc Rivers can find a way around that without Ben Simmons learning having to shoot, but if he wants to beat teams like the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs, if he wants to beat teams like the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs, because Brooklyn, their firepower is out of this world. Even with the injury to Spencer Dinwiddie, their firepower matches almost any team in the league. And I really, really want for this team to play well. That is what I truly desire for them because I think they're good. I think they're talented. Now, to the Orlando Magic, Nikola Vucevic had a good game, 19 points, 10 rebounds, a double-double. Markelle Fultz did not exactly have a great game. He only had 9 points, 4 assists. He's going to have those games. But this year, first 6 games, more often than not, 4 out of his 6 games have been good. I think he's had 2 bad games. But he's matured a lot more than I expected him. You see flashes this year. You've seen flashes of the number 1 overall pick that the 76ers thought they were getting. And I really, really hope that this bodes out well for him. Now, the Sixers won this game 116-92, another blowout. Now, the thing about people getting blown out this year in the NBA, I think it's a factor of a couple things. I think it's you got a lot of teams who haven't played in like nine. You got some teams that haven't played in like 9 months, and then you have the teams that haven't played in like 5 months. Because the guys who got into the bubble, because I think 22 teams made it to the bubble, so about 8 teams didn't get to play. So about 8 teams haven't played in about 9 months. And of the 22 teams, 16 made the playoffs. So that's what 8 teams. Once again, no, 4, 2, yeah, no, 6 teams. I'm not saying 8, 6. So you got 6 teams who haven't played in about 5 months, and you have a lot of turnover. You got a lot of teams who haven't. You've got a lot of new players on it, and you got teams that are. You have the teams that have new players on them. You got teams with rookies. You've got teams that are completely, pretty much the exact same as they were last year, and that's why I think you've got so many blowouts this early in the NBA season. And as I've stated earlier, it hasn't really hurt the ratings because the ratings look great. But you've got teams like, let's say, the Los Angeles Lakers, who have a hell of a lot of turnover, like 6 new players on the Lakers team. Not 6, I'm exaggerating probably, but like 4 or 5 new players on the Lakers teams. Where you have other teams like the LA Clippers, who are pretty much the same team they were from last year. And you have teams like Philadelphia 76ers, with the exception of Danny Green, Seth Curry, Dwight Howard. This team's pretty much the same. The core of this team is the same. So you're going to see teams at the top who are mostly the same look very good, while teams who aren't look bad. Now, we're going to have next game is the Sacramento Kings versus the Houston Rockets. Now, this score of this game was 122-119. Rockets win. The Sacramento Kings, you got De'Aaron Fox, didn't have a good shooting night. 9 for 23, 1 for 7 from three-pointer. He had 22 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Good stat line, but bad shooting night. Buddy Hield had a bad shooting night himself. He was 5 for 15 from 3, 7 for 18 from the field. Now, Rashawn Holmes had a good offensive night, had a good night in general. 22 points, 13 rebounds. Marvin Bagley had a terrible night, 1 for 9 from the field, 4 points, 8 rebounds. Harrison Barnes, a good night for him, 24 points, 8 rebounds. Kind of just giving you that old man energy, that big man, kind of bullying some of the Houston Rockets to the rim. Harrison Barnes, good player. Marvin Bagley, that's my sound for Marvin Bagley. This year he's averaging 11 points, 8 rebounds. I need to see something from Marvin Bagley. I have really yet to see anything from him this year to make me go, oh, he's a guy I need on my team. Hasn't really lived up to that number 2 overall pick. And to be honest, the new management in Sacramento have no real, what's the word I'm looking for? They have no real obligation. That's the word. They have no real obligation to really see if he can be like the star of this team. You have your star. Your star is De'Aaron Fox. And you've got a solid number 2 in Buddy Hield, and you've got your veteran championship, player in Harrison Barnes, who has an NBA championship. I know he's kind of been in purgatory in Sacramento the last 4 years or so, but Harrison Barnes is a good player. He's got championship level experience. That's going to kind of be your core. And Rashawn Holmes is playing well this year. Hassan Whiteside gives you some minutes off the bench. And right now, from kind of the noise I'm hearing, Tyrese Halliburton is very much the guy everyone's really focusing on for Rookie of the Year. He's not averaging a crazy amount of points. He's averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds off the bench, but he's doing a lot of the little things. His last 2 games, got 5 steals in the last 2 games. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's got 3 turnovers in 2 games. He's got 7 assists and 3 turnovers the last 2 games. In the last 5 games, he's got what? Let me make sure to check the stats on this one before I kill this dude. He's got 1 turnover this game. I think he's got 16 assists or something like that, and 4 turnovers. He's very good on the defensive end. He's making winning plays for this team. And yes, they did lose this game, but they look good. They're playing winning. He's playing winning basketball. His length, his shooting ability. Some people thought it wouldn't translate to the NBA. It is translating. He looks great. Rashawn Holmes, he also looks great. He's been in the league for 5 years now. This is his 6th year, 13 points, 10 rebounds. That's kind of what you want from him. But this team looks like they might be ready to take a step in the right direction. Right now, they're 3-3. Yeah, I think they lost their last 2 games, but they look good. Not great, but good. And let's move on to the Houston Rockets. Christian Wood has been balling out this year, averaging 24 points, 11 rebounds, undrafted player. This is his 5th year in the league, and he has matured so much over the last couple of years. And if you were looking for a score for another guy for James Harden, Christian Wood's that dude right now. And John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, this was their first game back, official first game back. John Wall, he didn't have a great shooting night, 8 for 20, 40%. He had 8 for 20, 2 for 8 from 3. He had 4 for 4 from the free throw line. But he had 22 points. He had 9 assists. James Harden was 10 for 24, 4 for 11 from 3, 9 for 11 from the free throw line. He had 33 points, 8 assists. John Wall looks he's not as fast as he once was, but his change of direction is there. His vision is there. He looks great. He looks very much like Kevin Durant looks. He was never as great as Kevin Durant and will never be as great as Kevin Durant. But what I mean by that is they both look like their old selves. They both look like their old selves. They both look like, this injury was like a bump in the road for them. They both look healthy, look strong, look very much similar to what they once were. Now, for John Wall, I know he played another game. His first 2 games back, he looks good. The question is, how long is this going to last? Can he stay healthy? Because John Wall is a bit injury prone. He is. He's injury prone. If he can stay healthy, this could be good for them. But they're 2-2 right now. They're still probably going to have to trade James Harden. And there was another story this week about James Harden in the club again without a mask. I don't know what's going through his head. You asked for a trade, but you have 3 years on your contract. If they don't want to trade you, they don't have to trade you. Now, I believe they are going to trade him this year because this year is where they have the most leverage. Because he's got 3 years left on his deal. So they're going to trade him basically anywhere, whoever gives them the most. Now, who could give them the best option would be Philly for Ben Simmons, but they're not trading Ben Simmons right now. They're playing great. I think they want to give Ben and Joel Embiid 1 more year to see what this thing could be under new management and a new head coach. Now, if the Philadelphia 76ers, flame out in another blaze of glory, the next year you might be able to get Ben Simmons if you want to hold on to James Harden. But right now, James isn't going anywhere until somebody blows the Houston Rockets out of the water with a trade offer. They just can't resist. Now, if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I want this trade. If I'm Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry is like 32 years old. You know, this is another year wasted of his prime. So if I'm Golden State, I'm trying to get James Harden. I'm trying to leverage the future to get James Harden because honestly, it's a win now league. And honestly, you're not going to do much winning in Golden State because John Wall and Kelly Oubre Jr. both suck right now. Neither one of them could drop. Neither one of them could drop the ball into the ocean standing on the Santa Monica Pier. Neither of them. They're both terrible right now. So if I'm Golden State, I'm trying to get rid of both of them. Attach some draft picks and give you some pick swaps. I'm trying to do whatever it takes to get James Harden in a Golden State Warriors jersey. Now, your next game, the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. Now, the Phoenix Suns were my pick for kind of the most improved team in the league. They have the best record in the Western Conference right now, led, of course, by Chris Paul. They are 5-1. They've got the best record in the West right now. They look great. They look great. Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, they just look solid. Chris Paul, to me, looks like the guy they needed to be. He very much looks like the guy that they needed to be their leader on this team. He's what they needed to be. He is what they. I know Devin Booker is averaging like 6 less points, but they're winning more games. He's averaging only 20 points, but he's 8 for 16, a better field goal percentage from last year. Not by much. Slightly worse 3-point percentage. Once again, it's only by 1 point. He's averaging less free throws. I mean, his free throw shooting is only like 70% right now. But overall, they're playing better. They're playing winning basketball. And I think Devin Booker wants to win right now because he's been in the league this is his 6th year, and he's never sniffed the playoffs. And right now, they look like a playoff team. With Chris Paul at the helm, they look like a playoff team. Now, this is still Booker's team. He's still going to be the guy taking the last shot. But Chris Paul, right now, has like put the jetpack on the back of these guys. He's giving them the confidence and the knowledge to win games. Now, DeAndre Ayton's only averaging 12 and 11. I thought we get a little better offensively. I mean, last year he averaged 18, but once again, it's only 6 games into the year. Okay, it's only 6 games into the year. I think they are still kind of getting used to each other, but the way that they're playing, I mean, who cares? He's only in his 2nd year. Well, he's in his 3rd year, sorry. He's only his 3rd year. Who cares? I mean, you're winning right now. Now, I know, young players want to put up their stats, but DeAndre, he could very much learn to win with Chris Paul. Now, I know Chris doesn't have a championship, but Chris is one of those guys who helps teams make the playoffs. Chris Paul isn't a guy who misses the playoffs often. So I think they're going to look great. Absolutely great. And I love the way they're playing right now. I want very much to see this team succeed because I think they deserve it. And Monty Williams is going to be the coach of the year this year. Mikal Bridges had 16 points. Jay Crowder had 16 points. Devin Booker, 25. DeAndre Ayton had a less than great night. He only had 4 points. But they won this game 106-95 against a good Utah Jazz team. Now, the Utah Jazz, they're, like I said, a good team. They're 3-2. They're currently 5th in the Western Conference, but it's only been like 2 weeks. So that the standings don't matter as much this early in the season. Bojan Bogdanovic Didn't exactly have a great game. Couldn't hit a shot. Rudy Gobert, fresh off his $205 million contract, he had 18 points, 14 rebounds. Donovan Mitchell had 23 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 9 for 23 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3. Bad game for him. Bad shooting game. I don't say bad game, but bad shooting performance for him. Mike Conley, he's older up there in years. I think they need to make some changes in Utah if they really wanna take the next step. Because I'm not the biggest fan of the contract they gave Jordan Clarkson. I don't know how Jordan Clarkson keep getting paid all this goddamn money. But they need a legitimate second scorer in the starting lineup. A guy, because Bojan, a good player, is not really great at creating his own shot. And Mike Conley's never really been a scorer. He's more of a pure defensive point guard who can shoot and can handle the ball, like a defensive playmaking shooting point guard. He's not a scorer. Donovan Mitchell's a scorer, but he needs another scorer on this team if they want to take the next step. Now, I might suggest trading for James Harden, but these two kind of play the same position. You can move James to the point, but I don't know how well they're going to play together. I think that's a terrible idea, honestly. I take that back. That's a terrible idea. But you need another scorer on this team. If Bradley Beal becomes available, especially with how the Washington Wizards are playing right now, Utah, if I'm Utah, I'm one of those teams circling the Washington Wizards trying to get a shot at Bradley Beal, because I think Bradley Beal and Donovan Mitchell might work well together. They both do kind of play the same position, so you will need a point guard, unless I don't know if Bradley Beal is that kind of playmaker yet. But that's what I believe for the Utah Jazz. They need another scorer if they want to take this to the next level. I still think they'll make the playoffs this year. And where was I? Now, actually, Mike Conley's having a good year this year, 21-5-5, which is rare for him. When Mike Conley ever been that big of a scorer? 21. He hasn't averaged 21 points in a while since Memphis. It's been a couple years since he averaged 20 points. He's only averaged 20 points twice in his career. Not really a scorer. Tone that down. Next game is the my hair. Sorry about that. The next game is the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Charlotte Hornets. Now, we're gonna take a break before we talk about this game. Play a little music. Haven't quite decided yet, but you'll hear it in between the next two segments. All right. Back again to the SJP Files. Now, the last game that we talked about, I believe, was I don't remember. The Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. That was the last game we talked about. Now, the game we're going to talk about right now, I mentioned before the break, was the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Charlotte Hornets are an interesting team, mainly because I'm not exactly sure where to place them. They're 2-4 right now, but I've seen some of their games. I've seen some of the highlights, and they look good. They look like a good team. They're just a little... Just had some bad luck. I mean, their last couple games. Let me see if I can find their full schedule to see who they... Not January. December. All months. That's their preseason. All right, week 1. They lost 121-14 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lost 109-107 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Beat the Brooklyn Nets 106-104. And then beat the Dallas Mavericks 118-99. lost to the Memphis Grizzlies 108-93, and then lost to the Philadelphia 76ers 127-112. Now, I do like this team. I like a lot of the guys on this team. I'm a big fan of LaMelo Ball. The first couple games of his career, he looks good. He's averaging 11 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds off the bench. I think he'd definitely do better in a starting lineup. Actually, I think he would have been a big help to the Golden State Warriors if they had picked him number 1 overall. Was he picked him number 2 overall. Sorry about that. If they had picked him number 2 overall, I think he'd have been a better fit for them. I know a lot of people don't see it, but I do. I think he would have definitely been a better playmaker for them, give Steph Curry a chance to play more off ball than as much on ball as he's playing right now. I think that would have been best for them, but they went with James Wiseman, who probably better right now, especially the fact that he's just playing more. Gordon Hayward had 14 points, 5 for 13 from the field. You got PJ Washington, Bismack Biyombo, Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham did not have a good game this game. 6 and 13 points respectively, even though that they both average, Gordon's averaging 19, 5 and 5 at this early juncture in the year. Got a couple 20-plus point games, had a 28-point game in their win against Brooklyn. He looks good. He looks very good right now. He looks healthy. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Because Gordon's one of those guys that I really like. I like his game. Terry Rozier averaging 23 points. He's kind of their starting point guard. You got Devontae Graham, who's only averaging 9 points and 7 assists, which is weird considering last year he averaged 18 points, but I think he's definitely gotten off to a slow start. But Terry Rozier has come out like gangbusters. He had like a 40-something point game earlier. He had a 35-point game yesterday against Philly. He's also had like a 40-point game. So he's really doing well right now. I think in this 3-point guard system, I would most likely suggest, because this is a young team. This is a young team that could just keep getting better and better. Miles Bridges looks a little better this year. Now, as for the Memphis Grizzlies, I watched this game mainly because I wanted to see how they would look without Ja Morant for the next couple weeks. And they look okay. I know they won this game, but they look like a good team. Kyle Anderson had a very good game, 18 points, 11 rebounds. I'm not expecting that to be a regular occurrence. He's averaging 16 points for the year. Wow. Now, I haven't really seen much of their games. This is the one game I watched, but now I'm looking at his last couple games. He had 9 points a game before against Boston, 28 against Brooklyn, and 20 against Memphis. Now, if he can keep this up, because that's all his game. He looks slow, but he's effective. He's only like 28 years old. If anyone's played 2K, Kyle Anderson. If you get Kyle Anderson on your team, he's pretty much, unless you release him, he's pretty much there, never really leaves. I've done like 3 my teams, not my leagues, on 2K, and whenever I get him on a team, he's just there. Never leaves. He's there. Doesn't matter how much you pay him. He's just there. Always there. But he looks good at the front of the year this year, which is surprising because you don't really hear a lot about him. He's still young, only 26 years old. He's never averaged more than 10 points, but he's going to get a chance this year, especially with Ja Morant, missing significant amounts of time. If he can play well, he might be able to kind of stave off the inevitable downfall that they're going to face, because they're going to have a rough time. See if I can find their upcoming schedule. Yeah, their upcoming games, they've got the Lakers tonight at 6 on League Pass, and then they got the Lakers again on the 5th, and then they've got the let's see. Then they've got the Memphis Grizzlies. Then they've got the Brooklyn Nets, and then the Memphis Grizzlies again, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves. So they could, because I think they're most likely going to lose both games against the Lakers, unless these are 2 days apart. They're probably going to lose both of those games. Cleveland looks great right now, so I wouldn't be shocked if they lose that game. Brooklyn, once again, if Kyrie and KD play, they're probably going to lose that game too. Once again, the game on January 11th against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they could lose that game. They could potentially lose like 5 straight. There's a good chance they could lose 5 straight, which is going to put them in a hole. Is going to move them from 2-3 to 2-8. Which will definitely damage their hopes of making the playoffs. So I wish them well, but this is not going to be a good year for them. With Ja Morant's injury, him potentially making a run at All-NBA this year, that's what it looked like to me, what he was going to do. It looked like he was going to make that All-NBA run, and it's not just going to happen. I feel bad for them, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes people get hurt, and they get hurt at really inopportune times. Next game, the Miami Heat versus the Miami Heat versus the Dallas Mavericks. Sorry, lost train of thought for a second there. No, this game was 93-83. Dallas won. Luka looked like Luka. How do you want? 27 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. He's Luka. He's just that good. He's definitely, I said it before the year started, he's definitely going to make an MVP run. Now, to make that run, he needs, Kristaps Porzingis to get back here and stay healthy. That's what I need from him. And from a lot of other these guys, I need Tim Hardaway Jr. to play well. I need Josh Richardson to play well. I need Willie Cauley-Stein to play well. That's what I need from this team. This team could definitely make some noise in the Western Conference. They're good. They're long. They're young. They're talented, and Luka is one of the best offensive players in the league. He's not a great defender. Actually, he's not really that good of a defender, honestly. But he's big, he's strong, he's a great point guard. Essentially, he's like your point forward. Now, Jimmy Butler has had a bad start to the season. He hasn't really looked like himself yet. He's only averaging 8 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, with the exception of like a 30. Like I said, man, he has not looked like himself. He had 19. He's played, I think, 3 games this season. He's only played 3 games this season. He had 19 against the Orlando Magic on their opening game, and then he had 4 points in the game against New Orleans, which he got hurt in, and then he played 27 minutes, 2 points against the Dallas Mavericks. He's not looking great right now. He's looking very, very, very bad right now, and I don't know if it's health. I don't know if he's just, as he showed up in the NBA Finals. He gave the Los Angeles Lakers everything they could handle, gave his entire body to the Miami Heat. You remember the picture in Game 5, him just laying over that table, completely exhausted. 35-point game. They won that game, but he was completely exhausted, and it showed in the next game. He only had 12 points. But since then, he had a 19-point game against Orlando, like I said, and his last 2 games against New Orleans and Dallas, he hasn't played well. For them to succeed, he needs to get back on track. They're 2-3 right now. I think something like a couple of games against some bad teams could do him some good. But the rest of the team looks like they're playing well. Bam Adebayo just got his new contract. He looks good, 19-11 this game. Duncan Robinson, he only had 5 points after his explosion a couple games ago, where he was just ridiculous from 3. Like his game against New Orleans, where he hit 5 or 6 threes in the first quarter, just ridiculous. But right now, last couple games, he hasn't looked overly great in and of himself. And then you got Tyler Hero, who's starting on this team. He didn't exactly look great either. Now, throughout the season, he's looked pretty good. He's averaging, 21 and 23 his last two games against Milwaukee. He's averaging 16, 5, and 4. Good year this year. This is a good stat line for a guy who's only in his second year. But Jimmy is really going to need to step it up. I don't know. I know his health. He's going to need to get healthy a little bit more. That's pretty much it. That's for Jimmy Butler. That's pretty much it for this Miami team. Jimmy just needs to kind of get into a rhythm again. Now, he doesn't need to score a lot to help this team win. That's just how this team is built. They're built very much on defense and toughness. And he does a lot of the little things that winners just do. And the trick, like I said, if he can stay healthy and get into a rhythm, get back into a rhythm, they'll be fine. But until then, it's going to be kind of hit and miss when you watch the Miami Heat. As for the Dallas Mavericks, same thing. Kristaps Porzingis, when he gets healthy and into a rhythm, that's when they're going to be able to move this thing along. You might need to make some trades. I think Luka wants to stay there, and the luck of the Dallas Mavericks to go from Dirk Nowitzki almost immediately into Luka Doncic, that's just crazy. It's just a crazy amount of luck and foresight and draft stock. I mean, Luka went, I want to say fifth in this draft. I think Luka either went third or he went fifth. Yeah, he went third. And then he got traded. The Atlanta Hawks took him at 3 and then traded his rights to the Dallas Mavericks for the rights to Trae Young at 5. Weird. Did they? I believe, I'm trying to remember who. No. Is that what happened? No, I think the Dallas Mavericks. No, I think the Atlanta Hawks traded for him Atlanta Hawks picked him at 3 and then traded him for Luka at 5. But whatever. It doesn't really matter because he's a Dallas Mavericks fan and this kid is special. He's only 21 years old and he's in his third year in the league and he's playing grown man basketball and he just makes other people just look bad. He's that much more talented on the offensive end than pretty much everybody you've ever seen. So skilled, so smooth, so gifted, and I can't really wait to see how this, potential MVP, season goes for him. Next up, the Atlanta Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this was kind of a wild game because Atlanta, was this game or was the game after that? Doesn't really matter. Right, this game, the Atlanta Hawks won 114-96. Jesus Christ. You had DeAndre Hunter, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. John Collins, 26 and 8. Capella, 12 points, 8 rebounds. Cam Reddish, 12 points, 7 rebounds. Trae Young, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Now, Trae didn't exactly have a great shooting game, but the Atlanta Hawks won. They look good. Now, I'm a little surprised to see Bogdanović kind of, coming off the bench, especially with as much money as he's making right now. But, they've got Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and John Collins, a lot of their young core starting. And I think it's good for them. I think it's that amount of playing time for those 3 guys is great. I don't think, and Bogdan is a good offensive player. Anyone who really knows that. The Brooklyn Nets, on the other hand, this was a weird game for them. Kyrie did not have a good shooting game. Kevin Durant played well, as he always does. 28, 8 and 4, 10 for 21 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3. Joe Harris hasn't really gotten started. He had 12 points, 2 for 5. DeAndre Jordan. I still say Jared Allen should be starting. And with the injury to Karis LeVert, now I still think they're the deepest team in the Eastern Conference, but they still need to adjust their rotation because question is, I think they still want Karis LeVert coming off the bench as evidence in this game because they had Timothy Carbot, whatever the hell his name is, starting at the 2 instead of Karis LeVert because, Spencer Dinwiddie is pretty much out for the entire year. Karras didn't have a good game off the bench. Exactly, he only had 8 points, 4 for 10, 0 for 3 from three. Although as good as they looked in the first couple of games, the Brooklyn Nets have really yet to find their rhythm. And Kyrie had a bad game, had a really bad shooting game. He had 6 for 21, 2 for 11 from three. Kyrie has a better game. This is a different team. This is a different game. If he's instead of 6 for 21, if he's 10 for 21, and instead of 2 for 11 from three, he's 4 or 5 for 11 from three, they win this game. So this, as a Nets fan, this has not shaken my confidence in the Brooklyn Nets whatsoever. And this has improved my opinion of the Atlanta Hawks. Right now, they're 4-2. They look good. They're young, talented. They're a team that could definitely put up a lot of points. I think they scored like 143 against the Nets. Was it a couple days ago or a couple days after this game? That was a couple days before this game, because this game happened, I believe, on the 30th. Yeah, 145 to 141, where they just blew the doors. This game was freaking crazy. That was the crazy game I was talking about. 145 to 141. I mean, this game was insane. These two teams just kind of went at it, and you saw where these two teams aren't exactly the most, best defensive teams in the NBA. They're both pretty bad defensively. These two teams can just put points up on the board, and I'm not overly worried. I'm not worried about the Brooklyn Nets kind of losing that game to the Atlanta Hawks. They're 3-3. Atlanta's 4-2. They're separated by game. Once again, it's early in the season. It's week 2. I'm not worried at all. Now, Spencer Dinwiddie being hurt sucks, but I'm not worried at all. Next game, the Los Angeles Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs. Now, we're getting to the stuff that I really, really love. The Los Angeles Lakers won this game 109 to 103. Now, LeBron James, another great game. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, a triple-double that nobody really talked about. And then you've got Anthony Davis, 34 points, 11 rebounds, just taking people to school. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had 11 points. Dennis Schroeder had 15 points. Kyle Kuzma had 11 points coming off the bench. This is their offense. And you had Pau Gasol once again. I know Pau Gasol had that game. We had like 8 assists. I believe it was against the Memphis Grizzlies. That really showed you kind of how good he's going to be for guys like Kyle Kuzma and LeBron James. That kind of slashing on your way to the basket, because Marc Gasol is such a good passer. Now, for the San Antonio Spurs, this was the game, I believe, that Becky Hammon coached. It was the game after this. It was the other game that I'm going to talk about later. The other game where was this a back-to-back night game? I believe so. Because I'm kind of worried, because I know they played it was the game before this that they played that Becky Hammon coach. This is the game that they had back. But this game was closer. It was definitely closer than the game before it. Yeah, because the game before it was 121 to 107. Just got basically blown off the court. And this wasn't one of those games where, this is two teams that just haven't played in a while. This is just stat of one team just being better. This was the game where this one team just happened to be a better team. DeMar DeRozan still looks good, showing everybody that he's still got a solid mid-range game. And if a team needs another scorer, like a mid-range scorer, I would definitely consider looking at DeMar DeRozan. If I'm Utah, I would consider looking at DeMar DeRozan to pair next to Donovan Mitchell for the next couple of years. because DeMar still got something in the tank. He's only 31 years old. He's still basically in the middle of his prime. He's got a couple more years left of his prime. And he looks good. Looks good this year. He's having a good, I wouldn't say a great, he's not having a great season, but he's having a good season. He's averaging 22 points, 8 assists. He's averaging 22 points, 8 assists. Great game for him. Great start to the season for him. DeJounte Murray having an okay year. I'm not overly fond of DeJounte's game. He's not a scorer. This team isn't going to make the playoffs this year. I just don't think they have enough firepower. I think they're a well-coached defensive team. They just don't have enough offense to hang with a lot of the teams in the league for the San Antonio Spurs. So it depends. I don't know if Pop's going to stay there much longer. He might, step aside and, give the reins to Becky Hammond, or I think Tim Duncan left the coaching staff. So I thought he might just give the, step aside in the coaching reins, go to either Becky Hammond or Tim Duncan, but I think Tim left the team. Next game we're going to talk about is the LA Clippers and the Utah Jazz. Don't care. Okay, that's a lie. I picked the game, so of course I do care. Clippers lost 106-100. Kawhi Leonard, 20 points, 16 rebounds, 9 assists. He was in that weird mask he had on that covers his entire face. Paul George had 25 points. Bad shooting night, 6 for 22, 5 for 13 for 3. That's the only reason he had 25 points. Then on the Utah side, you had Donovan Mitchell only had 15 points, but Mike Conley stepped up with 33 points, which is one of the main reasons why they won this game. Looks like Paul George and Kawhi did a number on Donovan Mitchell. But the real issue is, I'm going to talk about the Clippers. A show can't go by where I don't, trash the Clippers for some inexplicable reason. Not an inexplicable reason, just a reason in general. Now, the Clippers, my main issue with the Clippers is because I was listening to Rob Parker and Doug Gottlieb and them talk about on the Chris Bouchard and Rob Parker show. I heard them talking about, I think people are going to be, I think people are sleeping on the Clippers. I think that's what he said. People are sleeping on the Clippers. People are going to be surprised if you look down on the Clippers. Here's my issue with the Clippers. My issue with the Clippers isn't Kawhi Leonard. Because more often than not, I know last year he had a bad Game 7. But the rest of that playoff series, he played very well. My problem with the Clippers is not Kawhi Leonard. It's not Tyronn Lue, because I think he's a great coach. My problem with the Clippers is Paul George. The reason why the Clippers will not win a championship with this team is because of Paul George. Because if you look back into his playoff career, there's one or two games a series, Paul George disappears. He will give you one of those one of those 2 for 8 or 2 for 14 games. Or he'll give you those 2 for 8 games where he just disappears, or those 2 for 14 games where he can't shoot. Every single playoff series. And you can get away with that in the first round. You might even be able to slide by that in the second round. But once you hit the conference and the NBA finals, your second best player disappearing for 1 or 2 games a series is going to cost you a championship. And that is my issue with the LA Clippers. It's not the rest of the team. It's your second best player. If Paul George is your third best player and he disappears like that, you can get through that. But as your second best player, he cannot disappear for multiple games in a 7-game series. It just can't happen. Because if it does happen, it's going to do what it did last year. It's going to cost you an NBA championship. And that is the problem. He cannot disappear like that. If Paul George has a solid postseason to the point where he shows up every single game, maybe has one bad playoff game, 1 or 2 bad playoff games in a playoff run, that is acceptable. That's okay. People just have bad nights. But Paul George shrinks in the moment. Paul George buckles under the pressure. 1 or 2 games a series, he's going to collapse. And that is going to cost you a championship like it did last year, like it will this year. I will not change my stance on this until I see him show up and show out in the NBA playoffs. And until then, people can just keep, jumping on the Clippers bandwagon and refusing to acknowledge the very simple fact that you were wrong last year. You not only were you wrong, but you failed to acknowledge the reason why they won't win. Sorry. What else do you want me to tell you? You want me to tell you that they're going to pull another one through? It's not going to happen. You tell me, do you honestly believe that the LA Clippers can beat the Los Angeles Lakers in a 7-game series? Because I don't. And I don't know this for a fact, but I can surmise that LeBron James wanted the LA Clippers last year because he was tired of all the noise of people saying Kawhi Leonard was better than him. I know he wants it. Question is, does Kawhi want that smoke? And the bigger problem is, does Paul George want that smoke? Because I know what I'm going to get from a lot of these guys. I know what I'm going to get from the other top 10, top 15 players. I know Kawhi Leonard is going to show up. I know LeBron James is going to show up. I know Anthony Davis is going to show up. I know a lot of these guys are going to show up, and that's the problem with Paul George. I don't know when he's going to give me a game where I look, God, why are you here? All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to finish up the podcast after talking about, the Portland Trailblazers, the Portland Trailblazers versus the Golden State Warriors, the Charlotte Hornets versus the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Toronto Raptors versus the New Orleans Pelicans. And then we're going to break down some of the scores of the early NFL games in Week 17 of the NFL season. All right, back at it again. This is without question the longest episode I've ever done. So we're at a little under 90 minutes. So this is probably going to be the last segment of the pod before we finish up with a song like we've been doing every single episode. Now, the game I'm going to talk about is the Portland Trailblazers versus the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Portland Trailblazers blew out the Warriors to no one's surprise. CJ McCollum, 28 points. Damian Lillard, 34 points. Carmelo Anthony, 18 points off the bench. And as for the Golden State Warriors, another shockingly, just a shockingly bad game for Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre Jr. Just these guys. I mean, they're just having phenomenal years. I'm truly shocked to see them having such, poor shooting nights. I mean, it's just, I cannot believe it. I mean, this is a bump in the road for both of the guys. Who the hell am I kidding? Not a single one of you actually believe that. These two suck. How many times do I have to say it? They're trash. I know Andrew Wiggins had a good game against Detroit, but it's Detroit. It's Detroit. And he had a good game against Chicago. Once again, it's Chicago. Neither one of them are good teams. I've said it before, I'll say it again. No heart in Andrew Wiggins. No heart. He had an okay shooting night tonight. 15 points, 5 for 12, which isn't bad. 1 for 3 for 3. 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Need I say more? In 32 minutes. You're supposed to be the second leading scorer on this team. You're supposed to be the second best player on this team. Second scorer. Draymond Green played this game. I believe this is his first game of the year. Yeah, this is his first game of the year. 0 for 3 from the field in 18 minutes. 0 for 2 from 3. 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, no blocks. So that's Draymond Green, but Draymond's never been a scorer anyway. And my God, Kelly Oubre, this man can't catch a break. He's had, I think, one non-terrible shooting game all year. I mean, last game was his first time all season shooting above, 50%, above 40%. They're terrible. I think the 5 games he's played this year. Let's see. 3 for 14, 1 for 10, 3 for 16, 6 for 10, 4 for 12. My God, none of these guys could buy a shot. But at least, unlike Wiggins, he's got heart. Unlike Wiggins, he does some of the little things. When his shot's not falling, he does little things. Against the Bulls, he had 4 steals. Against the Pistons, he had 2 steals, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. No, 4 rebounds, 5 rebounds, and 11 rebounds. He's not a playmaker. He's a shooter who can't seem to shoot right now. I mean, they look terrible. This is the worst team in the league right now. The composition of the roster is terrible. They don't match. Steph Curry is not a ball-dominant player. He's not built to be a ball-dominant player. He's never really been a ball-dominant player. And on this team, for them to succeed, he has to be that, and he can't. Now, I believe I said this earlier in the show. They need a pure playmaker. I think Lonzo Ball would have been better for them. I think Lonzo, without question, would have been better for them. I think you would have moved Steph to the 2, Lonzo to the 1, Kelly Oubre to the bench. Then you had James. Then you would have had Draymond at the 4, and probably Eric Paschall starting at center. And it's not. And he's only 25 years old. He probably would have been starting at either at center for you. But man, they look terrible. This is a bad year for the Golden State. This is gonna be a rough year for them, and it's bad for Steph Curry, and it sucks for Steph because he had 26 points, 9 for 20 from the field, 4 for 12 from 3-point land. Steph, I just said it. Steph's not a guy you'll want being a ball dominant player. He needs Klay Thompson. He needs Klay Thompson right now. Or trade this cavalcade of bums for James Harden. Because right now, James Wiseman, with the exception of this game, James Wiseman has played relatively well this season. He's played well. The last couple games haven't exactly been great. But he played 2 very good games in his first 2 games. He showed you a little something. And the last 3 games haven't been perfect. But his value as a player is as high as it's ever going to be. So I'm trying to trade him, Wiggins, or Junior, or Oubre, and some draft picks to get James Harden. Because that's really your only way to salvage this season, getting Harden. You have to give up a lot to get him, but that's your only way to salvage this season. This season is over already for you guys. And you guys are probably going to be in the chance to have the number 1 overall pick. And it would be crazy if the Golden State Warriors got the number 1 overall pick. But to me, this signifies kind of I wouldn't say changing of the guard. I would say this season for the Golden State Warriors, the last 2 seasons really, have been just a trying to think of the word, a rebalancing of the basketball universe. I'm a Star Wars fan. It's all about balance, ladies and gentlemen. And this happens to every dynasty in the NBA. Certain things happen. For the Warriors, it was injury. For the Boston Celtics and the Detroit Pistons and the Los Angeles Lakers, it was age. For the Los Angeles Lakers, it was for the early Los Angeles Lakers, the early 2000s, it was personality. Shaq and Kobe just couldn't get along. which tore that dynasty down. And you talk about the Miami Heat dynasty, theirs was personalities and injuries. Wade just broke down by the time that was over, and LeBron James checked out. He left to get a chance for himself to win another championship. But this is gonna be a bad year for the Golden State Warriors. Sucks for y'all. Next, we've got Charlotte and Philly. Let's see. Where was it? Back Saturday. Yeah. Charlotte and Philly. Philly wins 127 to 112. A blowout loss for the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo Ball didn't exactly have a great shooting night, but I still believe he played well. Devontae Graham, also terrible shooting night for him. Terry Rozier, 35 points, a great night for him. Gordon Hayward had a good night. As for the Philadelphia 76ers, Danny Green had one of those Danny Green games. Tobias Harris showed out tonight. Joel Embiid had a good game. Seth Curry from three, and then Ben Simmons, another good triple-double game for him. 15 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. They're kind of clicking on all cylinders right now in Philly, and they very much, I know last week I said before the Brooklyn Nets lost 2 of their 3 games. But Philly looks like the best team in the Eastern Conference, maybe one of the best teams in the league. We'll see how far they can go, but I'm not going to spend much time on this game. Next, you have the Toronto Raptors and the New Orleans Pelicans. This one's kind of interesting to talk about. Well, not really. I wouldn't say interesting to talk about, but this was a good game, 120 to 116. The problem with Pascal Siakam, who had kind of like an all-NBA level season last year, all-star level, all-NBA level season last year, isn't really having that game this year. He's had some poor shooting performances. He's still averaging 17 points, but he was averaging like 25 last year, but he's having some really, really poor shooting performances. Yeah, he averaged 23 last year, but he's having some really poor shooting performances this year. And the bubble really, I think, kind of messed up his game, kind of. So we'll see if he can get himself back on track. Tonight wasn't a poor shooting game. He still had 17 points, 5 for 11 from the field, but he didn't actually play well. Fred VanVleet, 27 points, good game for him. Kyle Lowry, bad shooting night for him. 4 for 14, 3 for 11 from the field. But Kyle's 35 years old. Do you really want him to be your leader on this team? I need Pascal and OG to step up. That's what I need from those two. I need those to step up this year, especially in the next couple games, because you guys could fall behind very easily in the Eastern Conference, because the Eastern Conference is tougher and deeper than it's ever been. Well, I wouldn't say ever, but it's deeper and tougher than most of us expected it to be. And with the New Orleans Pelicans, the Pelicans, Brandon Ingram, 31 points, Zion Williamson, 21 points, Dion Hazem had 13, Eric Bledsoe had 19, Lonzo had 13, Lonzo 3 for 8 from three-point line. His shot just looks better, looks smoother. He adjusted his shot once again, and just better. He just looks better. He spent the months in between not making the playoffs, playing those 10 games in the bubble, and this started the season to adjust his jump shot, and it looks just so much better. He looks smoother. He looks better. Doesn't look as good as his brother does right now, but I wouldn't say he's not a bust. Is he ever going to be what some people thought he was going to be? No. But he's not a bust. I mean, last year he shot 37% from three-point line. He's better. He's definitely a better player than he was last year, and the year before that. He's consistently getting better. Same thing with Josh Hart. Brandon Ingram has essentially solidified himself as one of the best young scorers in the league, and Zion just looks like the beast we all thought he was going to be. Definitely looks like just the beast, the monster that we all thought he was going to be in the NBA. And I couldn't be happier for the New Orleans fans. I know they've had a rough few decades with this team, and it sucks for the city. The last 20 years haven't exactly been kind to them. With Hurricane Katrina in 2000s and the turmoil with the New Orleans basketball team. But it looks like finally they're in a position to really step up and make some noise in the NBA. Now, we're gonna jump over. That's it for the NBA schedule. Now, I know some people might take an intermission and then jump into the NFL. I have no interaction doing that whatsoever. So the next about 15 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about the NBA, the NFL schedule, and I'm going to go through some of the Week 17 games that have already happened, and we're going to go through the conference schedule with the teams that have pretty much locked up their chances to make the playoffs. So the games that have already ended at this point, the games that have ended at this point, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drummed the Atlanta Falcons, 44-27. Bucks, 44-27. Good God. The hell with scoring drives. I don't care about scoring drives. Sorry about that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished 11-5 this year after a 44-27 drumming of the of the Atlanta Falcons. The Giants beat the Dallas Cowboys 23-19. So, goodbye. Well, essentially goodbye playoff hopes to the Dallas Cowboys, because I think even if the Washington football team loses their game, I think they've got the tiebreaker over both. I think they have the tiebreaker both over the Giants and the Cowboys, so we'll see. The New England Patriots beat the Jets 28-14. First time the Patriots haven't made the playoffs in like 10 years. Yes, I know. I'm a Patriots fan, so I shouldn't be crying. Oh, you missed a playoff once in like 20 years. But still, we're used to a level of excellence, and not making the playoffs after 20 years of sheer dominance is irritating, but we'll move on from that. The Vikings beat the Lions in a close game, 37-35. The Browns beat the Steelers 24-22, solidifying their place in the NFL playoffs. Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. Congratulations, Brownies. Yeah, you did it. You finally did it. Oh my God. I'm very much happy for them so much. Let me see if I can check some of the stats of this game and see. What is this? I don't want to re-record Game Pass. I just want to see the statistics. There it is. Stats. Sorry. For the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, 17 for 27, 196 yards, 1 touchdown. Nick Chubb, 14 carries on 108 yards, 1 touchdown. Let's see. Jarvis Landry was shot. This was a good game for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Congratulations to the Cleveland Cavaliers for making the playoffs for the first time in I think like 10 years. Congrats, Cleveland. After that, the Ravens crushed the Bengals 38-3. Sorry. The Ravens secured their spot. They're in the playoffs. They've clinched their spot. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's one more spot left in the AFC. The Chiefs have clinched. The Bills have clinched. They finished 13-3. The Pittsburgh Steelers have clinched 12-4. The Tennessee Titans at 10-5. They've clinched. And the Baltimore Ravens at 11-5. And the Cleveland Browns at 11-5. They've both clinched. Now it's between the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins lost, so they're 10-6. So if the Indianapolis Colts lose, I think the Dolphins have the tiebreaker. So yeah, the Dolphins got blown off the field 56-26 by the Buffalo Bills. the Seattle Seahawks. Those are all the games that have ended. But now we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers 6-3. They're at halftime. As to the NFC, only 4 spots have been clinched, so that leaves 3 spots open. Right now, those spots belong to the Washington football team, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Chicago Bears. The Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, Seattle, and Tampa have all clinched their spots. So it doesn't really matter what happens to them. But Seattle's going to want to go into the playoffs with a little bit of momentum. And then let's see, the Los Angeles Rams, they want to go into the playoffs definitely with some momentum. And they're not out of the woods yet. If they lose this game, they could find themselves out of the playoffs, because if they lose this game, I think Arizona takes their spot. And if Chicago and Arizona both win their games, I think Los Angeles loses there. I think LA is out. And then you've got, let's see, the Colts. They're beating up on the 1-14 Jaguars. The Colts are probably going to win this game, making the playoffs in the AFC, clamping down that last spot. The Tennessee Titans, 17-9, up on the Houston Texans. Tie game in Oakland and Buffalo and the Denver Broncos, 10-10. The Chiefs are down 16-14 to the Chargers. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is playing today. The Green Bay Packers are up 21-13. Chicago needs to win this game to make the playoffs. The New Orleans Saints are up 16-7 on the Carolina Panthers in a game that doesn't really mean much, because the Saints have clinched the second spot have pretty much clinched the second spot in the NFC. Actually, I think they have the tiebreaker over the Packers. So if they win and the Packers lose, I think they get the bye. So never mind. That game does mean something. And then you've got the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles at the 8 p.m. game tonight. So that's your quick overview of the NFL schedule. I'm going to go more in depth probably next week for the playoff picture, to see who breaks out where, who's playing who, and then during the playoffs, we're getting a lot more football on this podcast, and it's probably going to be half football, half basketball. Probably the next over the playoffs going to be half, because the majority of this podcast has been mostly basketball. But that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 7 of the SJP Files. So I would love for you guys to have, a great, hope you guys had a happy holidays. And before I forget, in professional wrestling, we lost, those of you who do watch professional wrestling, you will know him as Brody Lee on AEW, or Luke Harper in the WWE. But his first name is John Huber, I believe his name is. Give me a second to check really quickly. Yes. Good God. It's just, it really kind of just shakes the world. And you do see a lot of outpouring from my man Brody Lee from WWE, especially from AEW, because they did a tribute show to Mr. Brody Lee, John Huber. And yeah, John Huber, I believe his real name is, and it's a shame that he just died so unexpectedly. And I heard about it earlier this week, and I don't really know kind of what to say about it. I'm a big wrestling fan, always have been. So I loved Luke Harper. He was an amazing wrestler, an amazing professional, an amazing character. And when he debuted in AEW as the Exalted One, Mr. Brody Lee, and I thought there was going to be a new lease on his career, and it was, because the Dark Order was kind of floundering when they first began. But Mr. Brody Lee came in, and he definitely pick them up. And I don't know where those guys are going to go now, but that's not really the point. AEW paid a beautiful tribute to John Hooper, aka Brody Lee, on AEW, and I wish his family the best. This is going to be a tough time for them, and I wish his kids the best. From what I hear, Brody, he was a father, a family man first, and a professional wrestler second. And not a lot of guys can say that, and he's one of those guys who can. And he was loved by a lot of the wrestling community. You saw the guys in WWE even wear bands with Harper on them after his death. And I wish his family the best. I wish his kids the best. I hope wherever we go after this life is over, I hope that he's there, and I hope it's a beautiful place, because I think he deserves it. So shout out to Brody Lee. 2020 fucking sucks, man. 2020 has completely sucked, and I hope it flies off the fucking handle. Hope 2021 isn't as shitty, but 2020 was fucking trash. And let's just hope 2021 isn't horrendous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a good